culture and how we communicate. So yeah, let's start right at the foundation. What is language? How do we even define it?
Okay. Q.1, briefly describe the nature and characteristics of language.
Well, a really foundational definition comes from two linguists, Bernard Bloch and G.L. Trager. They described language as a system of arbitrary vocal or written symbols, by means of which a social group communicates.
Okay, arbitrary symbols. That sounds a bit academic. What does that really mean in simple terms?
It just means there's no real connection between the sound of a word and the thing it represents. Like, the sound CAT don't sound like a cat, right?
No, not at all.
We as a social group just agreed that those sounds or those letters written down stand for that furry animal. It's an agreement. It's arbitrary.
Got it. So the word cat could just as easily have been blorf if we'd all agreed on that instead.
Pretty much, yeah. Now, beyond that definition, there are sort of three main ways anthropologists think about the nature of language, like what's it for.
Okay.
The first is the structural view. This looks at language like a machine. It focuses on the parts, the sounds, the grammar rules, the vocabulary, the mechanics of it.
So how it's built, the grammar, the sentence structure, all that stuff.
Exactly. Then you have the functional or communicative view. This one cares less about the structure and more about the purpose. Is the message getting across?
So this is about successfully sharing meaning. Like, even if my grammar isn't perfect, if you understand what I mean, then language is doing its job functionally.
Precisely. The message is key. And the third one is the interactional view. This shifts the focus again.
How so?
This view sees language mainly as a tool for, well, social stuff, starting relationships, keeping them going. Think about everyday small talk.
Like asking, how's it going?
Yeah. The interactional view would say the actual answer, fine, thanks, isn't the main point. The point was using language to acknowledge the other person, maintain that social link. It's about connection.
That makes a lot of sense. So if language is about connection and meaning and structure, it must have some core features, right? Characteristics.
Definitely. It's obviously systematic. It has rules, patterns, phonetics, grammar, vocabulary. They all fit together. But crucially, it's also incredibly dynamic.
Dynamic how? Like it changes.
Constantly. Words change meaning. Think about literally. People use it very differently now than, say, 30 years ago. Slang comes and goes. Grammar evolves. It's always shifting, especially across generations.
Right. Okay, here's one for you listening. Can you think of a word that means something different now than it did maybe 10 or 20 years ago? It really shows that dynamic quality.
And language also varies geographically, which gives us dialects, different regions, different ways of speaking.
Sure, accents and word choices.
But it also varies based on social factors, like class or job. That's what we call sociolects.
Jargon, like doctors using medical terms or lawyers speaking legalese.
Exactly. That's a sociolect. Yeah. It's a specialized language for a specific social group. And underpinning all this is the fact that language is symbolic and arbitrary, like we said. Meanings are assigned, not inherent.
Which ties it all back to culture, doesn't it? The agreements, the changes, the variations, they're all shaped by the social group using the language.
Absolutely. They're inseparable.
Okay, so we have a handle on what language is. Now for the big question, where did it even come from?
The million-dollar question. Q2. Discuss the various hypotheses that explain the origin of language. This is famously tricky. Our sources split this into two main ideas. First, how did humans get the capacity for language in the first place? And second, how did we come up with the first actual words?
Okay, capacity first. What are the theories?
Well, there's the divine creation hypothesis. This is the oldest idea, really. Language wasn't developed. It was given. A gift from God or the gods. Humans were just created with this special ability.
The criticism being?
No proof. There's no archaeological or fossil evidence suggesting the very earliest humans had complex language right from the start. It's a matter of faith, not science.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
The natural evolution hypothesis. This is more aligned with modern science. Figures like Chomsky and Pinker are associated with it. It argues language capacity evolved over a very long time through natural selection. Our brains gradually became more complex, developing specialized areas, maybe something like a language acquisition device, that allow for symbolic thought and grammar.
Makes sense biologically, but can we prove that?
That's the problem. We can't exactly rewind evolution and watch it happen. So scientifically, it's also unprovable. Both capacity theories remain hypotheses.
So we don't know how we got the ability. What about how the first words themselves might have formed? The mechanism.
Right. Here we have two main categories of theories. The first is the imitation hypothesis. Basically, language started by mimicking sounds or maybe even movements.
Okay, and these have some memorable names.
They do. There's the ding-dong hypothesis.
Yeah.
We name things based on sounds associated with them, like maybe boom for an explosion or tick-tock for a clock, though that's a modern example.
And the bow-wow hypothesis? I think I can guess that one.
Yep. Imitating animal sounds. Moo, hoof, oink. The idea is those imitations became the words for the animals. Then there's the poo-poo hypothesis. This suggests early words came from involuntary emotional noises, cries of pain, gasps of surprise, laughter, that sort of thing.
Oh, or wow, becoming actual words.
Kind of, yeah. And Darwin himself proposed the ta-ta hypothesis. He thought vocal language might have started to support or mimic hand gestures.
So like I wave goodbye and make a ta-ta sound, and eventually the sound takes over.
That's the idea. The sound reinforces or replaces the gesture. But look, the big issue with all these imitation theories.
Let me guess. Most words don't sound like anything.
Exactly. Table, chair, sky, think. They don't mimic anything. These theories only explain a tiny, tiny fraction of vocabulary, mostly the onomatopoeic words. They don't explain arbitrary symbols well.
So if not imitation, what's the other category?
The necessity hypothesis. This suggests language didn't start from mimicry, but because early communities needed it to solve practical problems.
Okay, like what sort of problems?
One idea is the warning hypothesis. Maybe language started with simple alarm calls, danger, especially useful during group hunting or defense. These simple calls gradually became more complex.
Makes sense for survival. What else?
The yo-he-ho hypothesis. This focuses on cooperation. Imagine a group trying to move a heavy log or rock. They might chant rhythmically together to coordinate their effort. Yo, heave, ho. Those sounds help synchronize the work.
Ah, the rhythm of work becoming language. Interesting.
And then a slightly more cynical one, the lying hypothesis.
Language was invented to lie.
The idea is that the ability to deceive, to misrepresent reality using symbols, could have given a significant evolutionary advantage to certain individuals or groups. So the need to lie spurred language development.
Wow. Okay, so warning, cooperation, deception. These seem like stronger drivers than just imitating a cow. But do they explain everything?
No, they have their own problems. Mainly, none of these necessity theories really explain how we got the complex grammar and structure we talked about earlier. Just having words for danger or pull doesn't get you to sentences and syntax.
So, where does that leave us?
Well, it leads to a fascinating historical footnote. Back in the 19th century, the Royal Linguistic Society of London got so frustrated with all these speculative, unprovable theories.
What did they do?
They actually banned discussion of the origin of language at their meetings. They declared all these hypotheses non-scientific because they couldn't be tested.
So officially the origin of language is still a mystery.
A profound mystery, despite all the clever ideas.
Still fun to think about, though.
Yeah.
So for you listening, which of those necessity ideas resonates most? Warning calls, yo-he-ho teamwork, or maybe the lying hypothesis, which feels like the most plausible trigger?
Good question.
All right, let's move from the spoken word, or its mysterious origins anyway, to how we communicate without any words.
Yes, let's talk about Q.3 nonverbal communication, NVC.
The silent messages.
Exactly. NVC is just sending and receiving messages without words. And interestingly, the scientific study of it really kicked off with Charles Darwin back in 1872. He was looking at how animals and humans express emotions through their bodies.
So this isn't some new pop psychology thing. It has deep roots. How do anthropologists break down NVC? What are the main types?
They usually group it into a few key categories. The first one is sort of baseline, clothing and bodily characteristics.
Yeah.
Your physical appearance, height, weight, build, gender, and of course the clothes you wear, all send messages.
How so? Like, dressing professionally sends a message of competence.
Yes, but even basic physical traits. One detail from the sources is that taller people are often unconsciously perceived as more authoritative or impactful when speaking. Your physical presence communicates before you say a word.
Interesting. Okay, what's the second category?
The physical environment, how the setting itself influences communication. This includes two important concepts. First is proxemics.
Proxemics, that's about space, right? Personal space.
Exactly. It's the study of how we use physical distance. Think about how close you stand to a friend versus a stranger or your boss. That distance communicates relationship status, intimacy, power dynamics.
Yeah, you wouldn't stand inches away from your CEO while chatting. It would feel wrong.
Right. That feeling is proxemics at work. The other part of environment is chronemics.
Chronemics. Sounds like time.
It is. The role of time in communication. Are you punctual? How fast or slow do you speak? Are you willing to wait for someone? How long do you listen without interrupting? All these time-related behaviors send strong, nonverbal signals about respect, urgency, status.
Being late consistently definitely sends a message, intended or not. Okay, third category.
This is a big one, kinesics. This field was really pioneered by a researcher named Ray Birdwhistle. Kinesics is basically the study of body movement.
So gestures, posture.
Gestures, posture, how you walk, your mannerisms, facial expressions, eye contact or gaze, even haptics, which is the study of touch. It's all under the umbrella of kinesics.
And this is where culture really comes in, right?
Massively. There's fascinating work here, especially by Paul Ekman. He did cross-cultural studies and found something really profound.
What was that?
He showed that the facial expressions for basic emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust are universal. People across totally different cultures display these core emotions on their faces in remarkably similar ways.
So a smile means happiness pretty much everywhere.
Broadly speaking, yes. The basic facial muscle configurations for these emotions seem to be hardwired. But, and this is crucial, Ekman also found that gestures, hand signs, emblems, those are highly variable across cultures.
Ah, okay. So the face might be universal, but the hands speak local dialects.
That's a great way to put it. The thumbs up, meaning good job in the US. It's a very rude gesture in parts of the Middle East or West Africa.
Hmm.
The OK sign. Same issue elsewhere. Gestures are learned culturally.
A really important reminder for travelers. Okay, so body clothing, environment, space-time, kinesics, movement, face gestures. What's the last one?
The fourth is paralanguage. This is about how you say things rather than what you say.
So not the words themselves, but the sounds around them.
Exactly. Your tone of voice, pitch, volume, speed, rhythm, accent, even non-word vocalizations like sighs, laughs, grunts, pauses, or filler sounds. All of that is paralanguage. It colors the meaning of the words immensely.
Yeah, you can say great job sincerely or sarcastically just by changing the paralanguage. The words are the same, but the message is totally different.
Precisely. It carries a huge amount of emotional and attitudinal information.
Okay, that perfectly sets us up for the final piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
How all this, the words, the nonverbal stuff, interacts with our place in society.
Right. Let's dive into Q.4, social context of language use.
This sounds like where everything connects.
It is. This is the domain of sociolinguistics,
Mm.
which is the study of that two-way street, how society influences language use and how language use reflects and shapes society.
So where do we start with that?
A fundamental concept is the speech community. This is basically any group of people who share a common way of using language with unique norms and rules that they all understand.
Can that be like a whole country or smaller?
It can be any scale. It could be speakers of English globally, or residents of a particular city, or even just a close-knit group of friends, or a family. If they have a distinct way of speaking, they share maybe specific slang, inside jokes, jargon. They form a speech community with its own social network.
Okay. And how does social status play into this?
Hugely. Research, like Clifford Geertz's famous work on Javanese society, showed clear links. People with higher social status, like aristocrats, often used a more formal, standardized, and homogeneous form of the language compared to peasants, whose speech might be more varied or regional.
So your speech can signal your social standing.
Absolutely. And it leads to what William Leboeuf called social aspiration. People who are trying to move up the socioeconomic ladder often consciously or unconsciously change their speech.
How so?
They might adopt pronunciations, vocabulary, or grammatical structures associated with a higher status group they want to join. They shed regionalisms, maybe adopt a more standard accent. It's using language as a tool for social mobility.
We see that happening, don't we? The sources mention things like Sanskritization or Westernization in India as examples of adopting language patterns of perceived higher status groups.
Exactly. It's a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
And this links to Basil Bernstein's work on social language codes. He proposed two main types.
Okay.
First, the restricted code. He argued this is often used in groups with strong shared identities and backgrounds, like tight-knit working-class communities. Meaning's often implicit.
Implicit, meaning you don't have to spell things out.
Right. Because everyone shares so much context and understanding, you can use shortcuts, pronouns without clear references, rely on nods and gestures. There's a strong emphasis on we, the group identity.
Okay, and the other code?
The elaborated code. Bernstein associated this more with middle and upper classes, where social networks might be wider but less dense, and identity is perhaps more individualistic, focused on I.
So what does that mean for the language?
It means communication needs to be much more explicit. You have to spell things out, explain your reasoning, define terms, because you can't assume the listener shares your specific background knowledge or context. Meanings need to be made clear and universal, not rely on unspoken group understanding.
Wow, that's a really powerful distinction. It suggests class differences aren't just about money, but about fundamentally different ways of using language to relate to the world.
It's a very influential, though also debated, theory. But it highlights how deep the social embedding of language goes. We even see status in simple things like how we address people.
Like using titles versus first names.
Exactly. Mr. Smith versus John, Professor Davis versus Sarah. Who gets to use which form, and whether it's reciprocal, clearly signals the perceived status difference, or lack thereof, between speakers.
And we also see differences based on age and gender, right?
Yes. Age groups often develop distinct speech patterns, like youth slang. It helps build in-group identity and differentiate from other generations.
Teenagers definitely don't talk like their grandparents.
And gender. While it's complex and stereotypes abound, research has looked at differences. Lebeau, for instance, noted tendencies for men to use more verbally aggressive styles in some contexts. Deborah Tannen has argued that many differences stem from how boys and girls are often raised in different subcultures, leading to different conversational goals and styles like report talk versus report talk.
So much is wrapped up in how we speak. It really shows that language isn't just a tool in society. It's deeply woven into the fabric of society.
They're completely intertwined. You can't really separate them.
Yeah.
Society shapes language, and language shapes social reality.
Okay, that was a lot to cover. Let's do a really quick recap to lock in those key ideas. Your active recall moment.
Good idea.
Q1, retap nature. We talked about the definition arbitrary symbols, then the three views. Structural, the parts, functional, the meaning, and interactional, the connection. And key characteristics like language being dynamic and symbolic arbitrary. Got it. Q2, recap origin. Big mystery. Capacity theories. Divine creation, gift versus natural evolution brain. Mechanism theories. Imitation, like bow wow poo poo versus necessity. Warning, yo hee ho. And remember, the RLS said non-scientific.
Still fascinating theories, though.
Q3 recap, NVC. Nonverbal stuff. Proxemics, space, chronemics, time, then kinesics, body movement, gestures, and those universal facial expressions for basic emotions, unlike the very cultural gestures. And finally, paralanguage, the how you say it, tone, pitch, etc.
Don't forget clothing and bodily characteristics, too.
Right, good catch. And Q4 recap, social context, sociolinguistics, key ideas, speech community, shared slang jargon, social aspiration, changing speech to move up, and Bernstein's codes restricted, implicit we versus elaborated, explicit I, plus age and gender influences.
That covers the main points. We've really journeyed from the nuts and bolts of language right through to its complex life in society, and hopefully shown that understanding language is about much more than just vocabulary lists. It's biology, history, social class, everything.
It really is. Which leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to sort of chew on. We heard from Ekman that basic emotional displays, anger, joy, fear on the face, seem to be universal, hardwired. But almost everything else about communication, especially our spoken language and gestures, is intensely shaped by our culture, our social aspirations, our need to fit into specific speech communities. So here's the question. If the body speaks this universal language of core emotion, but our words are constantly being tailored and coded by society, where does the most honest communication actually lie? Is it in the carefully chosen words we use, filtered through social context? Or is it in those fleeting expressions, the paralanguage, the kinesics, the things we might not even be able to fully control?
Where is the unfiltered truth, if anywhere? Definitely something to ponder next time you're talking to someone.
Thank you for sharing your source material with us for this exploration.
And thank you for joining us. Keep noticing the fascinating ways language works in your own life and culture.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.